I thought you might want to know why I was willing to risk your life for several small machines.
I think I understand the predicament you were in. It could not have been an easy choice.
No, sir, it was not. When my own status as a living being was in question, you fought to protect my rights. And for that I will always be grateful. The exocomps had no such advocate. If I had not acted on their behalf, they would have been destroyed. I could not allow that to happen, sir.
Of course you couldn't. It was the most human decision you've ever made.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fully Functional, TNG Podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today, we're talking about the Season 6 episode, The Quality of Life. Original air date is November 14th, 1992, and as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, first scene, loved it. Okay. So we start off, we've got bearded
the
Geordi.
first scene was actually added in because they were running short on the episode afterwards.
I love it. I love it. Could have watched a whole episode of this. Okay, so we got bearded Geordi, we got Dr. C, we got Riker, and we got Worf playing poker. Worf goes, "Commander, is it your intention to continue to grow your beard?" And then Geordi goes, "Actually, I'm not sure yet. Why, Worf?" And Worf goes, "I was just asking."
They were riffing on the beard again.
Keep dunking on his beard. Let Geordi grow his beard in peace. Okay, and then Dr. C goes, "You know, I have always been a little suspicious of men in beards." Worf goes, "And why is that?" And then Dr. C says, "I don't know. It's as if they're trying to hide something." And then I wrote, "It's their chins. They're trying to hide their chins."
Yeah. Or they're trying to create a chin.
Yes. I love how absolutely offended Riker looks throughout, like, majority of this conversation about beards. He's like, "How dare?" Okay, so then later Geordi's like, "Doctor, it because like Dr. C really is not for beards." And Geordi goes, "Doctor, it sounds to me like you feel that beards are nothing more than an affectation. God, I pronounced that super wrong. Affectation." And then Dr. C goes, "I do, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, women wear makeup and nail polish. I just think it's time you men admit it."
I mean, she's not wrong.
She is not wrong. And then Dr. C makes an absolute wild wager, and I loved it. She says, "If she wins, the guys all have to shave
I like
their
how
beards
Worf is like,
off."
wait, no, I didn't agree to this.
Yeah. And if she loses, Riker wants to know what she would look like as a brunette. And then that's when we learned that Dr. C was dyeing her hair at 13. And apparently she's not into looking like a brunette. But then they are saved. Well, Worf is saved by Picard. He calls senior staff to the bridge. Okay, so they have come into orbit of Tyrus 7A to monitor progress on the Tyran particle fountain, a radically new mining technology. Project has had lots of problems and is very behind schedule. So Geordi's been assigned to evaluate the situation, and we meet Dr. Farallon. And Geordi's he's going to evaluate if this is like more efficient than regular mining techniques, and then give a report to Picard, who will then like give a statement to Starfleet to like whether or not they recommend using this technology elsewhere. Okay, so we're on the station. Oh, it shakes, and I just wrote "shit underground." I don't remember what that was a reference to, but
The mining, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Okay, so then we also meet the exocomp, which is a little robot. It's so cute. Oh my god. It looks like... Okay, do you know Marcel the Shell with shoes on?
No.
Okay, well, it's kind of this little shell with like a googly eye and little shoes. That's just like the voice of like actress Jenny Slate. And Marcel just like does shit, but like talks in like a really soft little voice. But like the robot, the exocomp, kind of reminds me of it. It's like little feet, but it's like big little feet, and it's so cute.
Okay, so two things about that. One, the writer actually specifically did not want them to design a robot that was cute. Like he wanted to avoid the R2-D2 effect. He wanted them to design something that like you would just kind of ignore because it's just kind of there.
They should not have given it feet like that.
I know.
To me, that was the cutest fucking thing.
If it had just had like a tripod or like a single foot stand or something like that, then it would have been like all of that cuteness would have been gone. But no, they fucked up by giving it two huge shoes. I mean, like Mr. Potato Head
so
shoes.
Cute.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, but it's definitely not as cutesy as they could have made it.
No, definitely not.
Yes.
Yeah. I just looked up Marcel, the shell with shoes on, and it is horrifying. Not gonna lie. It's kind of horrifying. Because it's one of those like spiral shells, and it's like flesh colored. It's weird. And it's like, I can't tell if it's like claymation or 3D. It's really weird.
I think it like is something with the mouth. I think it's like, I'm not sure. I just know of it from like, I don't know, internet stuff, but I've never actually seen Marcel in like proper action. I've seen like a clip, I think, a long time ago. But anyways, okay, getting off track for them. Anyways,
So part two of that was that they actually bring the exocomps back in a Lower Decks, a couple of Lower Decks episodes. And they bring it back in the form of one of them that can actually talk, and it ends up being like a fucking self-centered, sarcastic bitch, and it wants to name itself Peanut Hamper.
That's amazing.
Oh, as it should. Peanut Hamper. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's so cute. Okay, so we're gonna call Dr. Farallon. We're just gonna call her Dr. F. Dr. F.
Mr. F.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I got that.
Yeah. So Dr. F is doing a presentation on the little guy on the Enterprise. Dr. F is interested in Data systems. Like, she's psyched to meet Data. So then I wrote, the exocomp is the Swiss Army knife of robots. And then I proceeded to in my notes, I kept writing SAR, Swiss Army Robot.
Yeah.
So I might just call it Swiss Army Robot.
Nice. That is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. F asks for a 48-hour delay. So Picard can, like, before he like does his report to Starfleet, she's like, oh, the Swiss Army Robot can, I keep on thinking like Swiss Family Robinson. The Swiss Family Robot. The Swiss Army Robot can help the mining tech reach its maximum potential, so this way can give a more well-rounded review. And Picard's like, I will allow it, and Dr. F requests to work with Data. Then I wrote, when does the Swiss Army Robot go homicidal? I just kind of assumed it was gonna go evil. It does not. Oh, sweet babies. Okay, so Data does like a fuck ton of tasks with the Swiss Army Robot, and then Dr. F gives the Swiss Army Robot a job that it like does not complete, and she tries to like override their malfunction in the control processor, but the like control pad overloads and like shocks her. So it's like, oh, Swiss Army Robot's going rogue. And they shut it down, and they decide to go study it on the Enterprise. So they're like, yep, that Swiss Army Robot is no longer usable, and now they only have 2 left. So Data starts to wonder if the Swiss Army robot malfunctioned as a form of self-preservation. So Data takes it to study.
Yeah, because Geordi kind of makes like I wouldn't say a joke, but I'm not sure what else to call it. He's just like, yeah, it's like a quip about how like oh, well, it's a good thing it malfunctioned. It almost knew like when it was time to leave.
Oh,
And
yeah, because it was like went into the thing and then it came out and then like there was like a little explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the circuitry that was damaged earlier is now repaired and the system is normal. So then Data's like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And so then
That's
the computer confirms that there was an interface failure earlier, and the Swiss Army robot initiated a self-repair program a bit later. Mm-hmm. So Data was like, why would the exocomp burn out its own interface circuitry and repair it 2 hours later? And the computer goes, unknown. Ooh. Okay, so Dr. F is a loose cannon scientist who plays by her own rules. And I don't mean that in a good way. So Dr. C and Worf. Oh, okay, so now we're in sickbay. And Dr. C and Worf, I guess they were sparring. Very cute.
Yeah.
Love it. I would like to see that. Okay, and so then Data says, it goes, Dr. C, what is the... Oh, he just goes, I call her Dr. C. He doesn't call her Dr. C.
Yeah.
Data goes, Doctor, what is the definition of life? And there's just like a super fucking long pause, which is like very fair because that's not like a 1 second answer.
That's also
I was
like
wow,
wild,
Data.
It's a wild question to ask, like just
Hey, what's
out
the meaning of
Out
life?
of nowhere. Yeah, I just wrote super chill Loki question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool Data. So then Dr. C says, life is what enables plants and animals to continue to consume food, derive energy from it, grow, adapt themselves to their surroundings, and reproduce. So Data is like contemplating the moment from when he was like just like parts to when he was like alive. And Dr. C is like, well, Wes asked me this when he was little, and I can come up with anything that sounded adequate. And I was like, I'm sorry, Wesley Crusher, when he was a child, was like, Mom, what's the difference between like not being alive and then being alive? It was like, on one hand, that's like wild, but at the same time,
It is
I'm
Wes.
like, I would believe it. I mean, that's a wild thing to ask, even for Wes, but I don't dismiss it. I don't dismiss it.
You're basically asking, when does life begin?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but in season 1, Wes asked Tasha, why do people like doing drugs?
Yeah.
And then she gives him the dare say no to drugs speech, basically.
Well, here's
if anything, that makes me think why that like it's less of a chance that young Wesley Crusher would have had like this kind of existential question.
I'm saying there's a precedent and it's the wrong one.
Okay, so I promise this relates, all right? But this is a wild way to start. So I was like 12 when 9/11 happened.
All right.
The thoughts that I remember this because not too long before 9/11 happened, I was contemplating like, my generation doesn't really have like a unifying like event that has happened. And then
we didn't have a 9/11.
Yeah. And then like not too like it could be coincidence, I could be misremembering when I had those thoughts, whatever, but those were the thoughts in my mind as a child. Was like, it's like as a 12-year-old, I'm like, it's interesting that my generation does not have a unifying event.
And now we've had too many fucking unifying events.
Yeah. Way too many.
We've had more than enough. We need less unifying events.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Please. Less once in a generation events, please.
Yeah. Millennials are exhausted. Okay, so Dr. C then continues that scientists and philosophers also have these kinds of discussions. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote, wow, the struggle is real. So then Data finds Dr. F and Geordi to say that he thinks that the Swiss Army robots are alive. Gasp. Now senior staff meeting. Mm-hmm. But without Worf and Riker, so some senior staff meeting. Mm-hmm. So Data thinks that when the exocomps left the access tunnel prior to that explosion earlier on, it may have been attempting to save itself from destruction. And Dr. F is like, source, evidence, name your
Citation
source.
needed.
Yes, yeah. Yep. Bibliography, please. And then when Dr. F attempt to override the exocomp, okay, and send it back into the tunnel, it responded by deliberately burning out its control interface. The computer diagnostics showed that the exocomp disabled its own interface 2 hours later. Back in the Enterprise out of danger, it repaired itself, and Data thinks that the exocomp was trying to protect itself. So Data's like, oh, while we figured this shit out, maybe the Swiss Army robots should just like hang out, chill, not be exploited as laborers, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But Dr. F is like, well, she really doesn't want to give up on her free labor at the moment. So
well, she
she's like,
she thinks like it's not alive. She's like, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
That, like, you know.
She's like, you're a fake and a phony, and I wish I never lived
It's
outside
it's
you.
like saying like, let's not exploit the Roomba. You know, let's not exploit the vacuum.
That said, Comrade Data, protecting the rights of the workers, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Geordi then suggests that maybe we like threaten the life of the Swiss Army robot.
Yeah.
And see if Data's theory is, accurate based on them having a survival instinct. Great. What? What, Geordi? What the fuck? What is that beer doing to you, Geordi?
Yeah, like I figured it was not gonna be like a real situation, but the way he worded it was wild. It's just like,
he's like, let's
we
threaten
think
its
these
life and see what it does.
yeah,
Like, things. So they basically like trap the Swiss Army robot in a tube, and they simulate something. I don't know. I kind of zoned out for a minute. And the Swiss Army robots don't really do anything. And Dr. F is like, see, they're just dumb machines. They don't have any idea what's going on. And so then Data does 34 more experiments with the same conclusion, where he brought back the Swiss Army robot, but this time, he got the same conclusion every time. So good job, Data. But this time, then he like usually would bring it back, but then he was distracted talking to Dr. C. She comes in. I love Dr. C.
yeah.
I don't know if I say that enough, but I love Dr. C. I actually, while watching this episode, I was like, wow, Dr. C. I've always liked Dr. C, but like, after now, like 6 seasons in, I feel like Dr. C might be like my favorite character, up there with Worf.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
She is pretty badass. Like,
I love her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
I love her so much.
yeah,
She
and I love
just,
her
like,
personality. She just like does shit. Like,
Yep. I love it. Yeah, I think she might be like one of my favorites.
That's fair.
Okay. So, so he's talking to Dr. C, so he was distracted. And so then the Swiss Army robot comes back on his own. On their own. Ooh. So then apparently, the Swiss Army robot replicated a different... Also, he came back and he's got different tools. So a different molecular fuser. And they completed the repairs and also deactivated the overload signal. So the Swiss Army robot realized that it was a simulation, saw there was no real danger, and completed their repairs and like replicated,
And also turned off the simulation.
Yeah, replicated the correct tool to eliminate the false overload signal. And so it turns out, the Swiss Army robot did not fail. It just was like, saw right through the test, and it just was like, you really thought you had us there, bitch.
yeah, because it turned out it was too smart for the test because it saw right through that it was fake.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I practically yelled that.
Didn't sound like yelling over here,
All right,
so
it
we're good.
felt like I yelled it for some reason.
It just sounded like you said it with enthusiasm.
I am very enthused.
Yes, as you should be. They're so cute and they're so smart. They're so talented.
Yeah.
So, okay, Picard then makes a field trip to the particle fountain for last looks. I don't know. But everything goes to shit pretty immediately. They're like, oh, everyone's got to get off this station. Radiation is coming. Everything's going down. Everything's bad. And I just wrote, looks like Dr. F is not getting Picard's recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was not great. Anyways, okay, so they get everybody off the station and back onto the Enterprise except for Geordi and Picard. Geordi went to like find someone that like they said was missing. They were dead. Rip. Okay, so they need to like turn off the particle fountain, and they're like, what if we shoot a torpedo? Shoot a torpedo at the stream, and there's only 22 minutes until fatality. And Dr. F is like, oh, we could send in the Swiss Army robots to blow up or whatever. And Data's like, hard objection. And Dr. F is like, listen, I can just like shut their brains down so they only listen to me. And they have no more free will. And Riker's like, fine, do it. So then they try to like transport Picard and Geordi, but Data has locked them out of the transporter system because he's like, no, the Swiss Army robots, like they're people too.
Yeah.
Riker is pissed. And Data believes in this like so hard. He even volunteers to go to the station to turn off the fountain, but Riker is like, that's even too much radiation for you. And Data's like, but it's my choice. Dr. F has taken the choice from the Swiss Army robots, and Riker's like, so we give the choice to the Swiss Army robots, ask them. And Data's like, great, sounds good, love that for us. So Data then sends them the program, and they are adjusting according to their, like, you know, lived experience and such.
Yeah.
And the Swiss Army robots, they send coordinates where they want to go to, and they head over. And they, oh my God, they're so cute. They're, like, working together on the station to, like, allow... They're like redirecting power or some shit, so they basically can allow like a little space so Picard and Geordi can get transported back to the Enterprise. Oh, they're working so well together. It's so cute. And then they get back, and then they're able to transport 2 out of the 3 Swiss Army robots back to the Enterprise.
Well,
One
I think,
stayed behind,
yeah.
so the other 2 could get out, and that's so sad. Oh my God, may its memory be a blessing.
Yeah, because he like that Swiss Army robot made a sacrificed itself like on purpose so that the other 2 could get back.
Oh my God, it's like heartbreaking. So Dr. F is like, oh wow, thanks Data. Now we know stuff. And now we won't be treating the Swiss Army robots as simple tools. And I'm just like, I don't believe her. I feel like the second Data's gone, she's going to be like, and their free will is gone. Flip that switch. I don't trust her. Okay. And then Dr. F thinks that, listen, in a year or 2, we'll revisit this shit and maybe, just maybe you'll give us the recommendation. And I was like, sure, Jan. Okay. And so then, okay, I think this is like the last scene, and it's so nice. Data's talking with Picard, and he's like, Data, you really like went there. You really like put yourself on the line there. And Data says, when my own status as a living being was in question, you fought to protect my rights, and for that I will always be grateful. The exocomps had no such advocate. If I had not acted on their behalf, they would have been destroyed. I could not allow that to happen, sir. And then Picard says, of course you couldn't. It was the most human decision you've ever made. I was like, that's so cute.
I really like that line, but
Yeah.
Star Trek has established many, many times, unfortunately, that being human is essentially self-sacrifice, which is... it's tooting our own horn just a little bit, you know? Like, this goes back to the original series as well, but it's really exemplified in what is considered one of Star Trek's most famous and proud moments, which is when Spock sacrifices himself in Wrath of Khan to save the ship. And, you know, everybody's crying for him, and they flat out say that his decision is the most human thing he has ever done, and it's like, ah, come on, he would take offense to that.
Well, no, they don't say that decision was most human.
That's
Like,
the implication of it.
I don't feel that way. Or like I didn't get that from it.
All right.
Like at the end when Captain Kirk is like of all the souls I've known, his was the most human. I figured that was like a general sentiment, not about the specific like decision that he made.
I think the fact that the reason that I got this impression of it was him kind of choking up as he's saying it, but also his own humanity and friendship there is kind of one of the major themes of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still don't see it as a reference to that specific decision.
Okay, fair enough.
Because he's not saying like, you know, like in the end he did this, like he showed his humanity, or like, you know, this.
I know
just
he
like a
didn't
general
directly
statement.
say it. I'm saying that's the impression
Yeah.
that I got from the way that it was delivered.
Oh yeah, and I'm saying like my impression is
I know.
not that. Yeah.
I acknowledge that last response.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'll yeah, that was my whole point, is like I don't like, I agree with the general statement that you made that like, yeah, Star Trek views like humanity as like self-sacrificing, and like that's
Yeah,
the ultimate...
it's done that many other times as well.
Yeah.
Mostly in
yeah.
episodes. Even in TNG.
For sure. And I think that it comes from also this general like sort of misconception that like only humans like self-sacrifice, which is not
Yep.
is not true. Like plenty of animals like have been observed in like doing self-sacrifice for like
Yes.
other members of like their fellow species and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like not even like just like mothers and children, like in general.
But it's also with animals, I think it's a little bit different because it's what do you call it? It's the way that Star Trek deals with it anyway is that it's steeped in your awareness of that being a mortal decision for yourself rather than putting yourself in danger. Like,
Yeah.
an animal isn't necessarily aware of its own life and death because it isn't considered to be self-aware as far as we know.
Yeah, it
and-
knows when it's putting itself in a dangerous situation, though.
Yeah,
Like-
definitely. And in this case, it is specifically stated that it's not just a dangerous situation, it's a mortal situation, which is how the episode plays out with it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it's less like... I guess I should have said that, like, my point was less about, like, Star Trek in specific and more, like... That's just sort of, like, the general... I don't know if, like, the actual scientists and stuff felt that way, but I'm sure, like, the general public's understanding of, like, how animals behave versus how humans behave and stuff like that. Especially in an era where they're, like, super steeped in, like, evangelicalism and stuff, where the, like, Christianity has always been kind of, like, very stringent on like separating animals and humans, and
Yes.
like that we are not the same thing and that we are unique, you know, that like you know, for a long time saying that humans are also animals was like kind of an offensive statement.
Oh, yeah. Very true.
Yeah, so that really has nothing to do with this episode, but that's just like I think like that I was just kind of piggybacking on your point of like Star Trek sees like this self-sacrifice is like a pretty uniquely human thing.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing about Star Trek is that in the end, this was written by men and women who grew up in the United States in, you know, the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, whatnot.
Yeah.
And these are people who are very much steeped in the culture of that period, which was, of course, much more religious. And it's something
Yeah.
that they were all, well, not all, but most of them were affected by.
Yeah. And I don't think, because that's the interesting thing is I don't think this this episode isn't really arguing sentience. It's just arguing like life.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
that is a good point.
Because the way I view it is they kind of, their intelligence is kind of on par with like a dog or a cat or something.
Okay.
Which I think also makes them like extra cute. Because like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that's kind of, they kind of have like those basic instincts and stuff, but like not, I don't know, it's hard to, maybe they do.
Like, I feel like the episode isn't trying to argue that they can, like, that they're, like, a super intelligent life form or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it also isn't saying that they're not. Like, it's
Yeah,
leaning towards, they are sentient and self-aware.
Yeah. They're self-aware enough to know that they're, like, alive and when something is dangerous and that sort of
Yes.
thing. I think it's, like, they're not... I think maybe their intelligence level, in terms of, like, complexity and stuff, is, like, not necessarily on par with humans, but I think it is, like, a bit beyond, like, basic intelligence as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The
Yeah.
writer actually went on record saying that they don't think that what they were going for was really all that successful with this episode. They didn't think that they really that what they specifically said was that they think that the argument that they tried to make about it, they left a lot of holes in, but also there were some non-deliberate comparisons that could be made to arguments that the anti-abortion activists were making at the time period.
Yeah,
about
that's why,
like the definition of life.
Yeah, that's why I made that joke about them arguing of when life begins.
Yeah, and they felt a little uncomfortable about that because that is not the side of that argument that they came out on. And like that's still an argument now, but it was a real big thing then because like it wasn't fucking what do you call it? They weren't able to like outlaw it anywhere, and they were making all of these really terrible moral arguments about it in like major newscasts and whatnot. So that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't I have a lot of opinions about that, but we'll be here forever if I go into that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, I can't let it go. I'll say one thing. It's like I think that the when life begins argument is kind of a distraction. Because it's like my argument is that, you know, regardless of when life begins, fetus is 1,100% reliant on the mother to sustain their life.
Yep.
And I don't think you should force anyone to sustain someone else's life against their will.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Like
agreed.
you can't just you can't you can't take people's organs without their permission.
Right.
You're not even allowed to take organs from like corpses without like consent.
Yep.
You can't like just hook someone else up to someone to keep someone else alive, without their permission.
Yeah.
So I kind of view that as the same thing. It's like I don't think it's right for someone else to be forced to keep someone else alive, against their will. Mm-hmm. So especially since like a fetus is part of your body. It's like if you want to cut off your own arm, like whatever, that's your arm. Right? I'm sure there's some law against that you can't like just cut off your limbs or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but like, I don't know. I view it as the same thing. It's like, to me, it doesn't matter when life begins, like, because even if like a zygote is technically alive, it's not, you shouldn't be forced to keep them alive against your will. Mm-hmm. Because it's just not right to use someone else's body against their will.
Yep.
So
I mean, what it comes down to is that I think everybody who's listening to us could have guessed what our opinions on this were long before we said anything.
Yeah.
But the like in the context of the episode, and like what would have been going on at the time, in terms of like the legal issues surrounding it and whatnot, the U.S. is really the only major place where this particular debate is as hot as it is, and it's really strange that it is in a lot of ways. Like, I kind of understand what the underlying reasons of it are to an extent, but it's so far beyond just cultural. Like, there are people who are actively involved in making sure that the argument continues to be like at the forefront. And what's even weirder about it is the fact that the public opinion on what's right to do in the abortion situation has not really shifted in the U.S. in the last 50 years. Like, the percentages of who agrees on what side has been about the same for that time. It's like shifted 2 or 3% in either direction, and that's it in 50 fucking years. And it is the only major developed nation where that has happened.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like most things in America, it's Reagan's fault.
That is a good point.
Yeah. Because sort of prior to, I don't remember if this was specifically Reagan, but like sort of prior to the 1980s, evangelicals were actually like pro-abortion, or at most were kind of neutral on it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they Republicans like sort of needed a new way to sort of get evangelicals on their side, and they started.
I know that was a big part of Reagan's success.
Yeah, Republicans basically like created this fervor around abortion in order to sort of mobilize the evangelical base. That's basically, yeah. So yeah, it's always Reagan's fault.
I mean,
you can say that. Yeah, listen, any problem you can say it's Reagan's fault, and like 90% of the time you'll be right. Anyway, yeah, I forgot what that was. Abortion corner, I guess.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, let's not call it that in the future.
No.
I think we should call it that in the future.
Yeah.
What else? Fetus corner, zygote corner.
Fetus catus is your taxonomic nomenclature.
Oh God. No, if it's a poem about abortion, it's got to be like beat poetry.
Oh yes, good point.
And don't get me wrong. Listen, I actually genuinely love beat poetry, but it can be some really pretentious shit.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a poetry person, so I will volunteer to shit on beat poetry.
Well, as long as somebody will.
I don't care for it.
That's
To be
fair.
fair, I don't care for really any poetry.
Yeah.
All poetry to me sounds very pretentious.
Oh, sorry. This is like only tangentially related, but I was going through my my notes app. Like sometimes I do that. I'll just scroll back through my old pictures or scroll back through my old notes, and I wish I'd put who this quote was from because I don't remember. But I just found a quote in my notes that was like, a film that's for nobody is a film that's for film students.
Oh. I mean, true.
Yeah,
Sadly.
I feel like that's kind of the same thing with like beat poetry. It's like that's for like people that are like into poetry. That's like a very specific niche that is not for.
And they can keep it.
Yeah.
I do want to just mention I was pretty quiet during the abortion discussion, and it's because I don't have anything meaningful to add because I agree with Maggie. So
Fair.
Yeah.
You said it all, everything that needed. Like, I have nothing to add.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Abortions for all.
Abortions
You
for
get an
some,
abortion.
miniature
You get
American
an
flags for everyone.
Yeah.
You get an abortion, and you get an abortion, and you get an abortion.
Yay, stem cells.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
love
god.
stems.
When my grandparents were alive, they fucking, like, we were over at their house and they were freaking out that because they said, like, Pepsi, they read an article in, like, one of their Polish newspapers that was like, oh, Pepsi's using aborted fetuses in making Pepsi. And I'm like, what?
Did
Will
they
it help
stop
it
buying
taste
Pepsi
better?
after that?
Yeah, and God, what had happened was like it was kind of weird, but it was not that obviously. Basically, Pepsi had like developed a machine that could like quote unquote taste the product in order to like do quality control, and I guess some of it used like stem cells or it used some organic material or something. But they weren't using aborted fetuses to make Pepsi.
Of course.
I mean, honestly, Pepsi can use all the help it can get.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a in like the battle between Coke and Pepsi. I'm definitely a Coke person.
Same. Team Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so much Team Coke that when I was in high school, me and my family, on the way back from Florida, because we're cool. No, we driving home from Florida, we stopped in Atlanta and we went to the Coca-Cola Museum, and me and my brother spent a ridiculous amount of time in like the taste testing area. It was amazing.
I want to do that so badly.
It was so fun. They have like samples of like, it's literally like those fountain machines, and it's just like pop from all over the world.
I like the
it's really cool.
I like the concept of saying on our way back from Florida, we stopped off in Florida.
Atlanta's not
Atlanta.
in Florida. It's in Georgia.
Atlanta.
Oh wait, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
It's in Georgia.
Yeah, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Well, I fucked up.
You did.
Yeah.
And they say
I don't know my
Americans
Americas.
don't know. And they say Americans don't know geography. Although, to be fair, I always forget that Louisiana is, like, on the other side of Florida. I always think it's on the East Coast for some reason. But no, it's, like, in the Gulf of Mexico.
All right.
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
Yeah. I always, like, for some reason, I always forget that there's stuff in between Texas and Florida. Like, to me, it's just, like, they're right next to each other in my brain. But they are not. There's things in between.
Yeah, you got to drive through a lot of things between here and Florida. Mm-hmm. I've been to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Ooh.
That was on our way to Florida.
Wow.
That's a strange name for a place.
Yeah. I've done a road trip.
Florida's a dumpster fire of a place.
But, like, where else are old people in Canada going to go during the winter?
That's true. When
Fair.
we were there, when we were in Orlando, and there was a mini putt thing beside our hotel, and at the mini putt there was a like sort of a I don't know what to call it. Like, you know, at the zoo where there's like animals who are like in the lower section, like it's lower down, like a pit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, the animal pit.
Yes. So there was basically like a pit at the mini putt, and it was little alligators, like live baby alligators.
Was it called the putt pit?
I do not remember what it was
Yeah.
called. I was like 16 when I was there. It's a long time ago.
Fair
but
enough.
yeah, I have photos somewhere where like literally have just little tiny baby alligators at the mini putt course, as one does in Florida.
That's fair.
It was pretty cool.
All right. So we shifted from abortion corner to Florida corner, which makes sense.
Listen, they're hand in hand at this point.
Yeah.
They're both messy things happening down south.
That was pretty good. I'm pretty impressed by that.
I remember like we were at one of our friends' stand-up shows one time, and one of the other comedians, she was saying like, she was talking about how she recently had her abortion, and she's like, "Yep, that's right, my uterus is haunted."
Pretty good.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. We should probably. That probably means we don't have a lot left to say about this episode.
No.
Is there anything else?
I think we covered it.
Any background or anything?
Oh, they only had enough budget to make 2 exocomps for the episode, so every time that you see 3 of them, it's a composite image.
Interesting.
Oh.
Yes. That's about it. Oh, also the guy who wrote it, you could probably tell from the amount of science thought in it. The guy who wrote it is actually the staff science advisor.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Did I know they had a science advisor?
Maybe not.
Have we talked about this before?
I might have
Because this
mentioned
doesn't
it.
sound familiar, but we know that I have the memory of a goldfish, so.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've mentioned it before. But it's pretty standard on a sci-fi show to have like a science advisor.
That's honestly like kind of surprising to me, considering the batshit nonsense this show comes up with.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, they don't always take their advice.
You should hear the mess of some of the fucking advice people that they've had in following Star Trek series. It gets pretty fucking stupid. They had an advisor for like native culture for a character on Voyager, and it turns out he was a fraud and was just making shit up all the time. So
Yeah.
there's tons of racist stereotypes around this terrible ass character that nobody likes. Like literally, he
my
is nobody's
God.
favorite character.
I-
And then on top of that, it turned out that the actor is kind of shitty anyway.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, the
Wild.
guy's kind of a douche.
Yeah, he's a scab,
Yeah.
or he's cool with scabbing.
Yeah.
Wow. Comrade Data's not happy about that.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it seems like I mean it happens with like obviously it's happened with like other races and stuff, but it seems like there's a particular thing with like Native Americans and indigenous people where people will like just pretend to be Native American, like, and just make up shit and stuff. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know why there's so many people that just like to pretend that they're indigenous.
Because
I
they're
think
bored.
it's because they're
Yeah.
not interesting and they want to come
wild.
up with something interesting about them.
Yeah, that's probably it. I have
And
this.
lying
Yeah.
to be interesting.
I'm not. So this is like. This is probably not an original idea at all, but I have this whole thesis of how like of how a lot of like white people, the reason they steal like culture from other people, like especially black culture, is because they had to like whiteness has erased so much unique culture and like cultural identity and stuff that like a lot of white people are like kind of left without that community and that connection and stuff, so they just steal others because they're missing their own.
That's an interesting viewpoint.
Yeah. Because like so I think we all know that like white culture is like not a thing, you know.
It's mayonnaise.
Yeah. It's mayonnaise. Like because like people are like, "Oh, why is it okay to have like a fucking like you know, like Black History Month, but not a White History Month?" And it's like, because like every month is White History Month.
Yep.
But yeah, but like you have to point out that it's like, listen, no one would bat an eye if you had like, you know, like a Ukrainian History Day or like a, you know, Scottish theme night at whatever, you know, like, because those are actual cultures. Not just
Yeah, white is not a
whiteness.
culture.
Yeah. So like, and this whole argument of like, oh, they're trying to erase white culture and white people and stuff. And
What's there to erase?
yeah, I may have said this before. I'm not sure on the podcast or whatever, but I've definitely said this to other people before. But like, it wasn't until I got more educated and looking into like racism and doing like my own sort of like work and trying to be like work on my own like biases and stuff that I started really going back and wanting to connect to my own culture more. So like anti-racism education just made me like more connected to my own culture, not less. So I think that argument is bullshit.
Yep, that's fair.
Anyway, we're like really off the deep end now.
Yeah, we're off topic.
Yeah, so let's get to favorite moments and lines.
Oh boy.
Dr. C. Anything with Dr. C in this episode? The first scene.
Oh,
The
yeah.
beard discussion.
Yeah. That
the
was a
Beard,
good scene.
Dr. C is always, she's been a little suspicious of men and beards.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, so the exchange with Geordie, Doctor, it seems to me like you feel that beards are nothing more than an affectation. And Dr. C says, I do, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, women wear makeup and nail polish. I just think it's time you men admit it. Yep. The Swiss Army robots were really cute. I like Data's line at the end that he says to Picard, his little speech. That's nice.
Yeah.
I like, Data just being like, Doctor, what is the definition of life? Just like, super chill, low-key question.
Yeah. Very cash.
Yeah, super cash. And, yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
I think one of my favorite bits is after the cold open, when we have that sort of opening banter scene between Geordie and the scientist lady. I thought that was good. I thought they worked off each other really well.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I like all the Data stuff. I do appreciate how they I thought it was clever the way they proved that the things were alive, that they sort of they had it like quote unquote fail the test so that they could go back and that there would be like a high stakes like climax for the episode, right? But then it was a clever way to like explain that, to explain why they failed the test while also proving that they were alive. That it's like, oh, they just like saw through the experiment. So I just thought that was a really clever way to do it.
They're very talented.
Yeah. And again, I like sort of the closing, like sort of, thesis statement of the episode. Thought that was good.
I like the concept of this episode in theory, but I think what the writer was going for was like, oh, I want like a something that people would not consider to be alive, and I want to convince the audience that they are alive. And while I think he did that, I don't think he necessarily succeeded at making the audience connect with them. And in terms of storytelling, that's a little bit of a problem, and that's probably why this episode is usually a skip for me.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand Data's plight, and I understand what they're going through, but I personally just don't give a shit about the exocomps at all.
Yeah.
They don't have an actual like personality for me to care about. So like while I care about the concept of them, I'm not really interested in them, and so I don't go back to this episode. So favorite moments, Comrade Data. That's about it.
Yeah, that is a great moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it depends on the person because I kind of have the opposite view of that.
Okay.
This is an episode I usually watch.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like I think if you're the type of person that like tends to anthropomorphize like their gadgets and stuff, I think this will be an episode you connect to, because I am that type of person where I like
Okay.
I say sorry if I bump into like my chair or like my desk or whatever.
Aw.
You know? And I think a lot of people do that, where they sort of like, they give their computer a name or like, you know.
My computer has a name.
Yeah.
Right, Jeff?
Nope. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Nope.
My computer's name is Tuffany.
Thank you.
Because it's a tough gaming computer or something.
So funny. Yeah, so, yeah, I think it depends on the person, because I definitely, like, it's not that I connect with the exocomms, but, like, I sort of connect with, like, wanting to protect them. Being like,
Okay.
oh, like, they're afraid to get hurt, like, you know,
Okay.
kind of
They're
thing.
cute.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. I mean, in my
Yeah.
case, I am much more Geordie about this in
Yeah.
that, like, I come across a thing and my instinct is how can I open it up and make it better or fix it or whatever.
That's
but
true.
it's not about, like, I tend to not have even that many sentimental attachments to, like, objects that I have. I treat things as either functional or maybe, like, if I am sentimental about it, it's because I have memories with, like, another person that it's connected to.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have sentimental attachments to a lot of my objects.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
But
I
yeah,
fall
this
somewhere
is
between you guys.
this is totally fair. I actually never thought about the fact that other people might have a different thought process about this same episode for some reason. I figured it was a skip for most people, but hey, I guess not. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think I'm somewhere in between because I do have like emotional connections with some of my stuff, but like this episode to me is like, eh. And I
Okay.
thought that the Swiss Army robots were really cute, but like honestly, I could like never watch this episode again and be fine.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying it's like my
I fall
most
somewhere
favorite
in
episode,
between
but,
you
like,
guys.
It is one that I do actively choose to watch.
Okay.
Just because I like the argument and I like them, like, trying to... I really appreciate that it is, like, sort of an unconventional life form. To me, this is, like, a better version of that, like, early series episode where it's, like, you know, the, like, bags of mostly water,
Oh,
like-
yes.
Oh, yeah.
the silica thing.
Yeah, that one really fell flat.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I really appreciate about this episode is that it is like that they did specifically go for something that wasn't humanoid looking or wasn't like too cute looking. Like, you know, the big feet kind of like, you know, cutified it a bit, but like it is.
Yeah, that wasn't the best decision.
Yeah. But it is generally like you wouldn't look at that and think like, "Oh, that's alive." For the most
No,
part.
you would think it's Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. So I did appreciate that. But yeah, that's generally why, like, I personally connect to the episode more. But, like,
Okay.
I totally can see, like, why you just would not give a shit about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I mean, in the end, I think there's episodes in this season in particular that I also connect to a lot more for very different reasons.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if you'd say connect to this next episode, but it is a good one. So let's segue into predictions for the next episode. So the next two episodes are, it's a two-parter. So the next episode is called Chain of Command, Part 1. So this is partially based on the Netflix description. So here's your tidbit. Picard is replaced as captain of the Enterprise so that he and a couple other Enterprise members can go on a secret mission into Cardassian space.
Oh. Okay. Ooh. Well, hello, Captain Riker. I'm just assuming Riker gets to be in charge then. Ooh. Why would they send Picard?
Oh,
Why
Star
do they
Trek's really
keep
stupid
sending-
about that.
Yeah.
This is something they didn't really do in the original series, but they definitely fucking do it in TNG and DS9 and whatnot, where they're like, okay, we need a super secret mission. Okay, we're gonna peg like the most senior officers on the flagship of the Federation. Yes,
Yeah.
good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, like when they sent Picard and Data to find Spock. Like,
Yeah.
why?
Yep.
Yeah, why them? Oh,
Like they are
Well,
not.
okay, I know
like,
why Picard.
They're not intelligence agents.
Yeah.
No, they should not have gone, and that's why they should. I don't even know the like the context of this, but I already have decided I don't think they should be doing this.
No, they definitely shouldn't be. It's not a. It's silly, but I won't tell you any more than that.
Because I can't unless they're like, oh, there's this archaeological something, but also Picard again is not an archaeologist,
yeah.
so like
he's an amateur.
he might be
archaeologist.
knowledgeable. Yeah, he might be knowledgeable on the subject, but he's not an expert. He
Yeah.
should not be in charge. Okay, all right. So he leads. Okay,
So-
do I guess who he brings with? What am I?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I was
can do
gonna
that.
I was gonna
Here.
say, like, who do you think? So it's 2 other crew members. Who do you think goes with him?
Honestly, my very first thoughts were Data and Troy.
Okay.
Because I feel like in terms like it feels like Picard would pick Data a lot. It just seems like he's very much like, I don't know, like, you know, if like people are going to play like dodgeball and they're picking their teammates, it really does feel like Picard would pick Data first
That's fair.
Yeah.
to be on his team. And I don't know. He just always seems to be like, I want Troy's opinion, even when it's like not relevant or, you know, I don't know. But like, I'm always in favor of more Troy. Because maybe they need her like vibes.
Yeah.
They
So-
need her to be like, oh, if they're going on a secret, they're like, quick, Troy, is there anyone around the corner who is having issues? And then she could be like, no, you're clear. And then they're like, great, we're gonna go.
So what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think the mission is?
Probably to like get a thing, like a MacGuffin. They have to go find the MacGuffin. Or maybe it's like, what was the name of the oh, it was something chain of command or something.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I was like, oh, maybe there's a, no, it's just, I'm trying to remember what I almost called them Kardashians.
That's
the
fair.
Kardashians, what's their deal? I know that we're not like,
They're fascists.
they're fascists.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That's what their
there's-
species is.
Yeah. Yeah. They're fascist. The Federation was in a long war with them, and
Are they, is everyone just chilling right
they're
now?
like
Yeah.
and they're like
Okay.
they're known to be really sneaky, and I don't remember if this has anything to do with the episode, but
Oh my
they're
god! If they put Picard in a fucking outfit, like a disguise, not an outfit. I love Picard in an outfit, but if they try to put him in a disguise, like in the Spock episode, I will be very disappointed. I don't like these disguises.
yeah.
They always look. It's like Uncanny Valley, but
Yeah.
makeup. Oh,
I mean, okay. And just to be blunt about it, Cardassians are basically like space Nazis.
Yes.
gross.
Yeah.
Gross. Okay. 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 I have an idea. Okay. They have planets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe something that belongs to the Federation accidentally like crashed or something on a Cardassian planet, and so so the Enterprise happens to be nearby, so they're like, I guess we'll go get it.
Okay.
So it doesn't fall into the Cardassian hands. Maybe it's something that's like important that they need to go get, but it's fallen in like an inconvenient place, so they have to like sneak in.
And
And
how do you think things are going on the Enterprise while Picard's off doing that?
Okay, well, assuming Riker's in charge, it's going to go to shit. And that's not Riker's fault, because it always goes to shit when Riker's in charge. And it's never, he doesn't really do anything wrong. It just, the second Picard walks out, everything just crumbles. So I'm assuming that, like, maybe, okay, I've got an idea for, like, some higher stakes situation. What if the Cardassians, like, figure out that, like, pretty quickly, because Picard is not a fucking spy. So they figure out pretty quickly that, like, Enterprise crew is down there. So they immediately go up into the Enterprise and are basically, I'd say they're holding them hostage, but we just had a hostage situation. But, I mean, we had 2 Alexander episodes in a row, so anything's possible. But maybe they, like, they go up to the Enterprise to kind of keep an eye to figure out what they're doing on the planet. Because if they can, like, sneak about, then maybe they just, like, blend into, the crew.
All right.
Yeah, undercover. Everyone's undercover.
Undercover boss.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.